Hey, it's Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, Record Store Day founder Carrie Colleton is joining us to discuss the April 20th RSD special releases.
Plus, we'll talk live with our audience, the Sound Up Pod Squad, and find out who still listens to vinyl. And some updates from the Beatles universe.
Oh, good. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Ice-T. I want you to do something for me. Make sure you download and subscribe Library Rap, the hip-hop interviews with Tim Einenkel. It is fucking official, all right? Stop playing. Download and subscribe Library Rap, the hip-hop interviews with Tim Einenkel. It's cold. Chat.
I just can't get over losing you.
Statik Selektah.
So
right. Yeah. Check it out. Now I won't turn the other cheek.
8 studio albums, many collaborations, many mixtapes, and a list of incredible artists under his collaboration belt. There seems to be no stopping the creativity of my next guest. He's about to drop his 9th studio album, The Balancing Act. He's Statik Selektah, and I want to welcome him to the Library Rap, the hip-hop interviews with Tim Einenkel. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the your debut album with Spell My Name Right, and you had DJ Khaled on do a Make a Movie interlude, and he talked about the idea of breaking records and how DJs don't do that anymore. So I want to ask you, like, what was that for you in hindsight? Like, what was that record that you think you took a real chance on, you broke, that in hindsight you did take a big chance on, but also kind of helped change the trajectory of your career?
I don't know if it was one particular song, but definitely artists that I've broken that ended up being the foundation for my career, really, like from the Terms to the Action Bronsons to the Mac Millers to the Gibbs to the Joeys, like a lot of artists that I was there before anyone else, like first one to bring them on the radio, all that. So that's definitely part of the foundation.
Oh, nice. How did you like? I mean, I feel like it's so tough not to get caught up in going with what's popular, I guess, at the time, whatever's on commercial radio, especially since you have a radio background. What would you initially look for in an artist that kind of, knew that this was a good time to you could break them in, or you could take that chance with them?
Just the qualities that I grew up, being a fan of, the Nas's and the Daves and the Bigs, like all the artists I work with have something unique about them, and I just think I have the ear for that. Like I'm not looking for the next 15 minutes of fame rapper. I'm looking for someone that's going to have a longevity in a career and really have a mainstay power.
Nice. On the debut album, on the No Mistakes Allowed track, you have a slew of DJs, Dougie Fresh, Tony Touch, Scram Jones, and so many others. For you, what was I really appreciate that, because there's this importance, obviously, to represent the beatbox and the art of the DJ. Kind of what for you, what's the importance of those art forms?
I mean, the DJ is hip hop. So, through the years, the roles have changed and everything and the way people look at things, but it's always important to hold the DJ first, and always represent that.
On the track Hardcore, which features Rex and Termanology, Rex, I think Termanology does something where he goes, "We owe to Big, we owe to Pac, we owe to Proof." So with those lyrics, you kind of know how those artists have impacted Termanology, but for you, how did those 3 artists kind of impact you?
I mean, that's all I listened to growing up was Biggie and Pac, and then rest in peace Proof. I had a couple of experiences with him personally, and he had a great energy, man. He was really like the poster child for Detroit and that whole scene, and just what he did with M and all that. But Proof was a ill dude, man. He brightened up the room when he walked in.
Dead, another casualty. I could go to the pen, but I'd rather be free. So I will always be the person that I become until my knowledge is instilled into everyone. I ain't done. So you wanna be hardcore, but I can't feel that. So you wanna be hardcore.
You obviously worked with other greats, and you've worked with the late Mac Miller and Sean Price. when did you first hear them, and what really stood out to you as they were doing?
I mean, I heard Helter Skelter the first time when they dropped La Fleur, La Fleur, Scotia, and then, I was always a Boot Camp Clik fan from the beginning. Mac Miller, the first time I heard him was Kool-Aid and Frozen Pizza, and I reached out to my man Artie, who was one of the owners of Rostrum Records, and I remember I was like, yo, I don't want what happened with Wiz to happen again, because I kind of fronted on Wiz at first, and I was keeping it a buck, like I wasn't really feeling him at first, and then he kind of found his sound and found his way, and I kind of regretted. I had a couple opportunities to work with him really early that I passed on, and I told him I wasn't going to do the same thing with Mac. So Mac came up. Mac had never even been in New York before. He came up. It was the day before his 18th birthday. Came up, did my radio show, and the next day he drove back to Pittsburgh and then drove back again to come to the studio. So Mac was on his shit.
That's like a 6-hour drive or more. Yeah. I think for me, the most incredible thing, I mean, obviously Mac Miller being an incredible artist, but what was also incredible was that when he did pass, the amount of people, not just from like the quote unquote commercial world, but from like the underground world that just like talked about how much he impacted them. Your production always stands out with all your albums, and there's this on the track Carry On, which features Joey Badass and Freddie Gibbs, off What Goes Around. There's these horns throughout the entire track. What was the thinking process going into using these horns, and how did you know that these two artists would be perfect for this track?
It was actually just like a quick beat I put together, and one night we were at Joey Badass's old crib in Bed-Stuy, and we were in the basement. He was just like freestyling on songs, and he kind of just like freestyled that verse, and I really liked the way it came out. So I was like, yo, I'm gonna send it to Gibbs, and just the song came together. But at first, there was no direction for it at first.
Is that for you? I mean, when you are working with an artist, and I mean, are you creating the beats first, or are you waiting for the artist to kind of agree to be on the track before you create anything?
Nah, I just sit there and make beats, man. Like it's not no intricate process, and I just sit there and try to knock out as many as I can when I'm in the studio, because especially nowadays, I'm not in the studio as much as I used to be.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned, I mean, you're not just creating albums and producing albums. You also you have a radio background in terrestrial radio, but you also have you're on Shade 45, SiriusXM. I know this is a discussion a lot that people talk about, the advantage of Sirius radio or satellite radio versus terrestrial radio. But what are you kind of finding that is kind of the key advantages of being on satellite radio that you could not get anywhere in terrestrial radio?
I mean, it's a luxury to be able to play dirty versions and to be able to say whatever you want. That's different. And then I don't have no playlist. I don't have the program director. Ron Mills is dope, man. He lets everybody do what they do. That's why we're on them in the first place, is because every DJ on the station has their own brand. So it's like they trust us to do what we do, and there's no rules. Terrestrial radio is like, especially now, it's worse than ever. But I was always kind of lucky when I was on FM radio too, though, because the program directors never really bugged out too bad on me. Like, they let me do what I wanted. I knew the rules. Usually you got to play like a record off a list, and then you could play, you can play 2 songs in rotation and then play a record that you pick. There's different rules to different stations. Right. But Sirius, we have none of those rules.
Do you see at all? I mean, I don't know if you're still in touch with the terrestrial radio world, but do you see at all, like maybe program directors kind of backing off a little bit on DJs and kind of control what they do?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. I was listening to this interview you did, and you talked about having Jay-Z's and Nas's Black Republican, the record, like 6 months prior to it dropped. And I don't want to ask you about the story about how when it leaked and stuff like that, but what I thought was interesting is that you talked about how you were able to use it as leverage to get other exclusives from labels. And I was just curious, how does that work exactly? Like, what does that mean that like you have a record early? So why would a record label, I think, be more inclined to give you more exclusives early?
Because it was a different era back then, and mixtapes were everything. Like the streets, if people were going crazy over a song on a mixtape, and it was a good look for the album, and it was foreshadowing the album. So when a situation like that, it's like having a Jay-Z Nas record. I was going on the labels, and like artists were even doing exclusives for the tape because they knew how many people were going to be listening to that tape because of that exclusive. So like they gave us the whole Clips album. We got all kinds of shit for that. And I think every song on the mixtape was exclusive actually. So we killed it with that one. Me and Big Mike.
How did for you? What was like kind of the highlight of creating this? I mean, you know, the big thing was the Nas mixtape. For you, what was the big highlight off of that?
Which one? The Prophecy one?
Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, it was just a crazy story how it happened because I went from getting calls telling me that Nas wasn't happy with me because because of that tape. And then when I finally got on the phone with his manager, who's actually my manager now, which is funny, Mike Brinkley, shout out to Mike. When I got on the phone with him, I was expecting to get, cursed out. But instead, he was like, yo, Nas wants you to do his actual mixtape now. So it really worked out for me in a bunch of ways.
Was that, I mean, for you, was that it seems like you're really taking kind of with a mixtape like that. I mean, if Nas is really mad at you, then that could I would imagine make or break your career type stuff. Was that kind of your... I mean,
that's part of the history though. Like, Biggie had a hit out on Who Kid, like Clue. All these guys have crazy stories. I heard that Big Pun kidnapped Who Kid one time.
Oh, Jesus.
Like it's all part of the mixtape game,
Right, got you. Obviously we're talking in the middle of whatever month we are in this 2020 pandemic, and I appreciate that on IG you reached out to people to share their inspirational stories of getting through this year. Why did you want to hear those stories, but also what have been kind of the most inspirational stories so far?
I mean, it's therapeutic for everybody. It's good to hear, everybody thinks they got it the worst and they're so bad off. But then you hear about one of the kids that sent me a story. He has, I believe, multiple sclerosis, and he can't walk, he can't talk right. And he sent a story about how he's been going to the gym and he was lazy in the beginning of 2020. He realized he had to focus and all this. And this is a kid that wasn't even supposed to get to this age. And, people are here complaining because they can't buy a new Gucci belt. It's like, it's crazy. So, it's always good to hear someone else's motivation.
That's dope. We talk about, I think you talk about hip hop, you talk about maturity and people, obviously growing up and becoming adults. And then we turn to your new album, The Balancing Act, and you look at the cover art, which is a pretty incredible thing. It's you holding your daughter, but it's also, you have a piece of vinyl in the other hand, you're wearing headphones, so trying to obviously show us the balancing act of what you do with family and your work. What for you, I mean, I think I said it with the question, but what does the cover art mean to you, and how does this kind of support the overall concept with the album?
I mean, it's just what you said. It's balancing being a dad, being at this point in time, I'm homeschooling her on 3 days a week. And being a single dad is new to me too. So it's a real crazy process. And, when I'm with her, I have her half the week. And when I'm with her, it's like, that's it. I don't really do no music stuff when I'm with her. So, she loves going to the studio and she's on the album. She had a blast making it. But, for the most part, I stay, away from the music side of things when I'm with her. So half the week, it's all madness, the partying and the music and everything that comes with that. And then the other half of the week, I'm going to bed at 9 p.m.
Nice. I'm also home with 2 kids and doing the remote learning thing for you as well. Just real quick, what has been the toughest part about remote learning?
Dealing with the other parents, man. There's some really bad people out there. The background, during the classes, some of the stuff that we hear, and people are just really I don't know, man.
Right. No,
yeah. Like I said, people going through it, and I get that, but to be so selfish and ignorant towards other kids is crazy. The shit I hear daily is just insane. I don't even want to have her in school no more. I might pull her out. It's only kindergarten, and it's kindergarten is not mandatory anyway, so we can start fresh next year. But right now, I'm losing my mind doing that shit.
Agreed. I mentioned on the cover, there's a piece of vinyl in your hand. What is your go-to vinyl? I mean, not when you're creating a record, but kind of to whatever, just to you need to listen to something. What are you going to?
Usually jazz records, maybe some Roy Ayers or Ahmad Jamal. I listen to a lot of jazz.
the list of artists on the Balancing Act is impeccable. You have Black Thought, Nas, Joey Badass, Killer Mike, 2 Chainz, Conway, Method, Styles P, Jada, Benny, Termanology, and so many more. Has there ever been a time where a collaboration has never worked? Not because just two people being hard-headed, or but more like there's a certain beat you want the artist to work on or be perfect on, and it's just not working for him or her, and it just doesn't work.
Not really. I usually come to an agreement, like we come to agreement on what song it's going to be, and not really. Like there was on this album, the only thing that didn't really work out is I had YG and Corday did a song, and he sent me a voice note of him rapping it, and he never got to record it in time, so it didn't make the album. But that's the only situation that something like that happened. It always goes pretty smooth.
I mentioned Termanology, and I reached out to Term to kind of say, hey, I'm interviewing Statik. Do you have any questions you would ask him? And he came up with a couple of questions, and one of them is, what is your favorite beat that you've ever created? And then the other one is, what's your favorite Termanology collaboration you've ever done?
I mean, it's hard to say what beat. I like Legendary a lot. Joey Badass featuring J. Cole. I love the Nas record, Lost Freestyle. My favorite joint I've done with Term is probably there's this record called First Love we got, where I'm talking about my daughter, he's talking about his kids, and it's a special record to me.
So, I mean, Term is, he's been on the podcast, and he's obviously an incredible artist. How do you, and you guys have worked together for so long, how do you think you continue? Why do you think the working relationship is so great in terms of the artistic relationship, but also how do you guys keep kind of pushing each other to just do kind of better, do great things?
It was always like a friendly competition, really, because we're both from the same place, and we were born in the same hospital in the same year. Like we didn't meet till we were 16 years old, but it was always just kind of a competition, and to push each other and see what we could do, and it's just, I don't know, there's nobody else that has really been running next to me the whole time like that. Like even like best friends gave up a while ago. Like I had a couple kids I grew up with that put out an album, and then they kind of just fell back to do the dad life and all that, and that's cool. But I'm not done. You know what I mean? I still got a lot more shit to do.
Nice. Black Thought is on the first record of the album called The Healing. Why is Black Thought the quote unquote table setter for this album?
I mean, I've been very blessed through the years to get some of his best verses ever, and with this album, it's like it just felt right. The way he sets it off is very, it's the temperature that's out there right now, and what he's talking about. Just a very relevant verse that he did, and it's much more than just saying a verse. It's like, I think it's like 32 bars, but he went in. Obviously, he always does, but he got some real dope quotables on this. So I was just like, you know what, I gotta stop. We actually got in an argument about it, and at the end of the day, he let me use it, but he wanted. Well, me and him are doing a project, and he wanted to use it on there. What's the? Is there a project that you guys have already started, or just more talking about? I guess more in the works. He picked out about 6 beats so far. I don't know what he hasn't recorded. Nice. I mentioned that Black Thought is on The Healing, which is the table setter for the album, but the first track that has been released to the public, the single, is Keep 'Em Moving with Nas, Joey Badass, and Gary Clark Jr. So why kind of this track? Why is this track the single for the album? It was just full circle for me, like to connect Joey and Nas, two different generations, and I signed the Nas for this album. It's on Nas Appeal. I just thought it was bringing the best of both worlds together, and obviously Joey's been on all my albums since I met him. It was just important to me to do that and hold down. People have been talking about hearing Joey and Nas together for so long, and it never happened. All right. But we actually met up. We met in L.A. We had like a dinner, and we talked about the record. This is back in January. It didn't get done till September because of everything that happened this year. So I had to lead the album off with that record though, because it was just people kind of seen it coming, because the press release from when I signed the Mass Appeal was a picture of me, Joey, and Nas. Right. And it was just important to me for that to be the first song.
That's dope. You mentioned the delay of between Nas and Joey meeting and actually getting the track done, and I think it kind of works. You think about 2020 being a year that people just would want to forget, and just hopefully 2021 will be better. And then you have a track called "America Is Canceled," which features Termanology, Styles P, and Jadakiss. Can you just talk about what this track means and what is it referencing in terms of "America Is Canceled"?
Well, I mean, we're in like a cancel culture right now, and everybody, you walk the wrong way on the sidewalk, America cancels you. And the term was just basically saying, like, now when the whole country's canceled, how trash people have been behaving and voting and all this shit. And, the song has some touchy subjects on it. I can't wait for people to hear that term saying some crazy shit on there, and Jadakiss and Styles bodied it. It's like the world, America, like, played itself, man. Like, the way, it's just a very selfish nation, man. And now it's like the rest of the world sees that, and it just kind of flipped on us. Like, at one point, we were looked at the most progressive nation, and like, it's the center of a lot of the world's culture and shit. And then now it's like people are just laughing at us. So America's canceled.
Are you in search of deeper meaning in your life? Longing to manifest your true desires and unlock your full potential? Look no further than Portal Místico podcast, your gateway to treasure trove of transformative tools, enlightening interviews, and enriching content. I'm your host, Elena Maggio, and it's my heartfelt desire to guide you on this extraordinary journey of self-discovery. And with every episode, I'm passionate about sharing and introducing you to new topics in self-development, metaphysics, astrology, the law of attraction, numerology, interviews that will eliminate your path and fuel your own personal growth. This podcast is your wellspring of inspiration dedicated to help you uncover your purpose with unwavering passion. Together, we'll dive deep into the fascinating topics and explore endless possibilities. Listen to Portal Místico on Pandora, Apple Podcast, or your favorite platform.
Hey, it's Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, Record Store Day founder Carrie Colleton is joining us to discuss the April 20th RSD special releases.
Plus, we'll talk live with our audience, the Sound Up Pod Squad, and find out who still listens to vinyl, and some updates from the Beatles universe.
Oh, good. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you seeing that more? I mean, in terms of hip hop artists speaking out kind of about this canceled? I mean, do you see more artists being more vocal about what's going on around them than what they used to do?
Yeah, I mean, hip hop grew up, and it's about time. It's like the shit that we used to like hearing about and making music about is not that fun anymore. Like, you can't sell drugs and shoot people for your whole life, man. You gotta start addressing the problems. And even the most gangster rappers in the world have more enlightened music now.
Right, that's true. The final track of the album is Immortal, which features Harley Harrell and Bobby Sessions. What can you tell us about this album, this track, and also why is this the final track of the album?
Well, the reason it says featuring Harley Harrell, she only says one word of the song, but after the song ends, 5 seconds later, she got her own secret song, so that's why I put that on there. But yeah, that's my dog. Bobby Sessions did it, man. Probably that song's 2 years old now. I've been sitting on it, and one night when I was finishing the album, I just came across it, and I was like, "Nah, this is a perfect way to end the album," because the song right before it is called "Way Up," and it's about Mac Miller and Sean Price and Prodigy and Pimp C and everybody we lost. So I thought it was cool to end the album on Immortal, basically saying that they live on forever,
Mm-hmm, that's dope. So looking back at the project, kind of what was your favorite aspect of creating this album?
I feel more accomplished finishing this album than any other album because of just what's going on in the world. And getting it done was just at times very nerve-wracking. The quarantine and everything going on in the world just made everything harder to get done. But at the end of the day, there's some silver linings in there because certain songs in the album wouldn't even happen if we weren't going through this. And there's certain moments in the album that really timestamp this moment in time, and hopefully people look back on it and it brings them, it brings them the right memories. I don't know. The song with Jack Harlow, he talks about everything going on right now and what he wishes he could do this year and how the pandemic stopped him. And he tells a story on it that really hit me a certain way when I heard it about when Mac Miller died. So it's just like, there's a lot of moments on there that wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for, COVID shit.
Just before I let you go, do you give the artist a kind of a concept or direction of where you want to go with the album, or do you kind of just let them do what they do?
Sometimes, with that track particularly, no. I had sent him a couple beats, and he wasn't really feeling the first couple, and then the one he picked, he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to use this." And then like a month or two went by, and I was like, "Bro, you still going to get on it?" And he's like, I'm gonna. I was like, "All right." And I wasn't sure if he was gonna. And then when he sent me the record, I was just like, "Wow!" Like he put a lot more thought and effort into the record than I thought he was gonna. And I was really impressed by that.
That's dope. New album's coming out, The Balancing Act, Statik Selektah. It's an honor to have you on the Library Rap, the hip hop interviews with Tim Einenkel. I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much.
All good, no peace.
Don't nobody move and don't nobody make a sound. Everybody lose if anybody stay around. Really don't play around. Call me Bob the Builder, got the tools to lay you down. Don't nobody move and don't nobody make a sound. Everybody lose if everybody stay around.
Hey, it's Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, Record Store Day founder Carrie Colleton is joining us to discuss the April 20th RSD special releases.
Plus, we'll talk live with our audience, the Sound Up Pod Squad, and find out who still listens to vinyl. And some updates from the Beatles universe.
Oh, good. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.